The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Have you ever noticed that your mind never really stops? Even when you're trying to relax, it's still going, replaying a conversation from yesterday, worrying about something that might happen next week, planning, judging, comparing, criticizing. Most of us spend almost our entire lives living inside our heads. And here's the wild part. We don't even notice we're doing it. What if I told you that almost all of your suffering, the anxiety, the stress, the feeling that something is always just a little bit wrong, what if all of that is coming from one single habit, the habit of not being present? That's the central message of one of the most transformative books ever written, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And today, we're going to break it all down together. Who was Eckhart Tolle? Before we dive into the ideas, let me tell you a little about who Eckhart Tolle is, because his story is genuinely remarkable. Tolle grew up feeling deeply unhappy. By his late 20s, he was living with almost unbearable anxiety and depression. He's described waking up one night, feeling like he simply couldn't live with himself anymore, and then something shifted. In that moment of complete desperation, he had what he calls an inner transformation, a sudden, profound sense of peace that never fully left him. He spent years trying to understand what had happened to him, and what he eventually concluded became the foundation of this book. The Power of Now was first published in 1997. It was rejected by almost every major publisher. Tolle self-published it, sold copies out of his car, and it slowly, almost quietly, became one of the best-selling spiritual books of all time. Oprah called it one of the most important books she had ever read. Over 3 million copies were sold in North America alone. So what is this book actually about? Let's get into it. The core idea: you are not your mind. Here's the most important idea in the entire book, and I want you to really sit with this one. You are not your thoughts. Think about that for a second. Right now, you're listening to me, but there's also a part of your mind commenting on what I'm saying, maybe agreeing, maybe skeptical, maybe thinking about what you'll have for dinner. That voice inside your head, Tolle says that is your mind, but it is not you. He calls the mind a powerful tool, but a tool that most of us have completely lost control of. Instead of us using our minds are using us. We get lost in endless mental chatter. We identify so completely with our thoughts that we believe we are those thoughts. And that's where suffering begins. Tolle describes this as the compulsive thinker, someone who can never stop thinking, who replays the past constantly, who obsesses over the future, who can never just be. And here's something to try right now. Just for a moment, close your eyes if you want, or just soften your gaze, and ask yourself, what will my next thought be? Notice what happens. There's usually a brief pause, a moment of quiet, because in that moment, you stepped back from your mind and watched it instead of being inside it. That gap, that space between thoughts, that, says Tolle, is where you actually live. That is presence. That is the now. What is the present moment? So what does Tolle mean when he talks about the present moment? It sounds almost too simple, right? Just be in the present. But there's so much more depth here than it first appears. Tolle makes a distinction that I find really useful. He separates clock time from psychological time. Clock time is practical. It's the time we need to get things done, making plans, learning from the past, setting goals for the future. That's fine. That's necessary. But psychological time is when the mind uses the past or the future to define your identity. When you spend hours reliving a painful memory, not to learn from it, but just to suffer through it again. Or when you're so locked into worrying about the future that you can't enjoy what's in front of you right now. Tolle says, and this is kind of mind-bending, that the past and the future only exist in your mind. The only moment that is actually real is this one, right now. When did you ever experience anything? Always now. Even your memory of yesterday. You're experiencing that memory now. Even your plans for tomorrow. You're thinking about them now. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens. This doesn't mean you stop planning or stop remembering. It means you do those things consciously from a grounded place, and then you return to now. And when you truly arrive in the present moment, something remarkable happens. The mental noise quiets. Anxiety, which is always about the future, begins to dissolve. Depression, which is often about the past, loses its grip, because in the now, in this exact moment, almost everything is actually okay. The pain body. Why we suffer now. Here's a concept from the book that I think a lot of people find really eye-opening. Tolle calls it the pain body. Over the course of your life, every emotional pain you have experienced that wasn't fully processed, that wasn't fully felt and released, that energy doesn't just disappear, it accumulates. Tolle says this accumulated emotional residue becomes almost like a separate entity that lives inside you. He calls it the pain body. And it is hungry. It feeds on negative emotion. You know those moments when something small happens. Someone says the wrong thing, a tiny inconvenience. And suddenly, you feel this enormous wave of emotion that seems completely out of proportion. That's the pain body waking up. It triggers you into the past. It wants drama. It wants you to suffer, not because you're broken, but because feeding on that energy is how it survives. And here's the key. The pain body can only survive in the dark. The moment you become aware of it, the moment you notice and say, wait, this is my pain body reacting, not the real me, it begins to lose its power over you. Presence is the antidote. When you can observe your emotional reaction rather than become it, you create space, and in that space, you have a choice. This isn't about suppressing your emotions. It's about being fully aware of them without being controlled by them. You feel the emotion, you acknowledge it, but you don't let it write the story. How to access the now. Okay, so all of this sounds beautiful in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you access the present moment when your mind is racing 100 miles an hour? Tolle gives us some really practical doorways into presence. Let me share the most powerful ones. The first is your breath. This is the oldest and most reliable anchor to the present moment. You can't breathe in the past. You can't breathe in the future. One conscious breath, actually feeling the air move in and out, and you're here. The second is your body. Tolle talks a lot about what he calls the inner body, the subtle sense of aliveness you can feel inside your hands, your chest, your feet. Try it right now. Can you feel a kind of tingling or warmth in your hands? Just by directing attention there, you've stepped out of the thinking mind and into presence. The third is acceptance, not passive resignation, but a conscious choice to stop arguing with reality. The present moment is what it is. The traffic jam is there. The rude comment happened. Tolle says the primary source of unhappiness is never the situation itself. It's your resistance to it. When you stop fighting what is, you free up enormous energy. You can then act clearly and effectively, but from a place of peace rather than frustration. The fourth is simply noticing. Notice the space between sounds. Notice the gap between thoughts. Notice the stillness that is always there underneath all the noise. These aren't big dramatic practices. They're small, quiet moments that you can weave into any ordinary day. Relationships and the now. One of the most practical parts of the book is what Tolle says about relationships, because most of our suffering doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in connection with other people. Tolle makes a powerful distinction between two types of love. He calls them addictive love and true love. Addictive love is when we need another person to complete us, when we look to a partner or a friend to fill an inner void. This kind of love is always fragile because it's really about using someone else to escape from ourselves. True love, he says, is what becomes possible when you are already at peace within yourself, when you're not desperately seeking something from the other person, when you can simply be present with them. Think about the best conversations you've ever had, the ones where someone was truly listening, not thinking about what they were going to say next, not distracted, just fully there with you. That quality of presence, that's what Tolle is talking about, and it's the most profound gift you can give to another person. He also talks about how unconscious people who are completely lost in their minds, can't truly connect because they're not actually there. They're somewhere in their heads, and you're talking to a ghost. Presence transforms relationships, not by fixing the other person, not by saying the perfect thing, but simply by being genuinely, completely here. Key takeaways and action steps. Let's bring all of this together. Here are the core lessons from The Power of Now that I want you to walk away with today. Number 1, you are not your thoughts. The mind is a tool. You are the awareness that observes the mind. This single realization, if you really get it, changes everything. Number 2, The present moment is the only place life actually happens. The past is a memory. The future is imagination. Now is real. Come back to it as often as you can. Number 3, your emotional pain lives in resistance. The moment you accept what is, not what you wish was or what used to be, the suffering begins to ease. Number 4, your body is your most reliable anchor. Feel your breath. Feel your inner body. Use these as doorways out of the thinking mind and into presence. Number 5, presence is a gift to yourself and to everyone around you. The most loving thing you can do for someone is to be truly, completely there with them. Now, here are 3 things you can actually do this week. First, practice the one breath pause. Before you respond to anything emotionally charged, a difficult email, a tense conversation, take one conscious breath. Just one. That's enough to create space. Second, once a day, spend 2 minutes just noticing. Sit somewhere and pay attention to what you can hear, feel, and see, without labeling or judging, just observing. This trains your awareness muscle. Third, when you notice your mind spinning, worrying about tomorrow, or replaying yesterday, just gently ask yourself, what is actually wrong right now, in this moment? Not in your imagination, right now. 99 times out of 100, the answer is nothing. Just the mind creating drama. Call to action. The Power of Now is not a self-help book in the conventional sense. It won't give you a 5-step formula to optimize your productivity or hack your morning routine. What it offers is something quieter, and in many ways, something much more radical. It invites you to question the very foundation of how you experience your life. Most of us are so convinced that happiness is somewhere out there, in the next achievement, the next relationship, the next version of ourselves, that we keep missing the one place it's always been available. Here, now, this moment. That's the power Tolle is pointing to. Not a power over things or people, but the power of being fully alive in the only moment you will ever truly have. If this resonated with you, I'd love for you to subscribe. We cover books just like this one every week. And drop in the comments, what's one moment today where you could practice being truly present? Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.